Hello and welcome back to the Cozy Club, my friends. It's a beautiful day as always for some DSA, and we've got a video that I've wanted to work on for quite a while now, but it took a lot of time to really figure out how to do it the best way with so many different team compositions out there. And what I'm talking about today, Cozy Club, is the Disney Sorcerer's Arena targeting guide and kill order recommendation for meta teams. Now, this was not an easy task because there's so many different variations of meta teams out there. However, I talked to my top DSA players. I've got a list of them here in Discord that I asked for their recommendations and their advice. I'll put them in the description below if you want to know who I asked. But I asked them who would they take down first along with my own advice, and I'm going to combine that and bring it to you today. Now, a few notes before we jump into this video. We're going to be talking about Kingdom teams, Frozen teams, Tech, Oceanics, Downtown villains / Toy Story villains, Onward, and Incredibles. That's the main gist of most of the meta teams you'll be facing. Of course, a lot of these will have variations with different S-tier characters plugged in there, and I'm going to try my best to get to each of them. This is going to be general advice for these teams that you come across and the teams that I'm seeing the most in the higher level plays of Arena. Now, of course, this will be changing as you make your way up through live PvP, and also do know that whatever I recommend today, it's going to depend a lot on the team that you're using, right? So I'm going off of the teams that I have seen, whether it's Kingdom, Frozen, meta, the same teams going against these meta teams. But if you have a little bit of an offset team, it will be a little bit different. Also, the spell choices and the crowd control overall on your team is going to be a very important factor here. We're going to talk about not only killing individual units and making sure you take them down first, but we will also be talking about crowd control on important characters. Now, there's some characters, Cozy Club, that they don't need to die right away, but they need to be inflicted with silence, with offense down, or the other debuffs that are powerful for controlling the enemy team. And lastly, as always, if you want to catch me on Twitch, you can check the description below. Go ahead and leave a follow so you know exactly when I'm going live next. Love to test out different teams. Have fun with all of you guys in general, and it's the best and most fun Disney community, let me tell you. All right, let's jump on to the first team we're going to be looking at, and that will be the Kingdom team, the most common team most of us face in DSA. Now, when going up against a Kingdom team, you're usually against Aladdin, Shan Yu, Sorcerer Mickey, Jasmine, and then it's usually either Genie or Jafar. There's so many different variations, but this is the one that we're going to be looking at more and more today. Usually, aside from tech teams, usually when Hero Hamada is in a team, that's going to be your first priority, or it's not a bad idea to have that be your first priority for someone to silence or someone to kill right when the battle begins. He's a big plug and play character, so I want to get that out of the way for all teams to come. If Dash is in there, just make sure you keep him in check. If he already got rid of his specials to start out the battle, then you can kind of ignore him for a little bit. Just keep a mental image of the cooldowns that he has, so you make sure he doesn't get out another special, but just either silence him, crowd control him, or if he hasn't gotten it up, maybe focus him so he doesn't have the charges. But in general, these two plug and play characters, you will see a ton. Him, Zerg, and Hero are all characters that you usually want to focus right away. And unless I say otherwise on these other teams, that's usually a good and safe bet to take that strategy into battle with. Kill those crazy S-tier characters first. They're in S tier for a reason, and then focus these other ones. But let's get back to Kingdom specific, starting with Jasmine. Now, Jasmine wants to be your focus fire if she hasn't had a turn yet. You want to put everything you have on her so that she doesn't get Raja out there. However, there's a little bit of a twist. If Raja does get summoned, go ahead and kill Raja, and then you can actually ignore Jasmine for quite some time. So then ignore Jasmine and go after the next biggest target. Usually that's going to be either Shan Yu, which you're going to want to put crowd control on, something like offense down, charm, or silence to keep Shan Yu at bay. Offense down is a very accessible debuff that is easy to have on a lot of characters' kits, so putting that on Shan Yu is a great way to start. Or another high priority target in the Kingdom faction is Jafar. When you're starting out your matches, Kingdom teams go very quickly with Shan Yu's lead, so it can be tough to get silence or complete kill out there before these characters get their turn. But if you do go first, concentrate Jafar as fast as possible, or you're going to be looking on a 6v4 looking battle, as he has that 2-turn charm that is just absolutely devastating, and you don't want to get caught behind that. So Jafar is a very high target, right up there with Jasmine. When we talk about most of these teams, you'll know that the tank is usually that first character that you want to burst down and get down quickly. And the main reason because of this Cozy Club is because you'll find yourself using all of your big, flashy, high damaging, high CC abilities when the match starts. And then you're not going to have these abilities to tank out the tanks later on. So you'll end up with having someone like, I don't know, Shan Yu at half health. And then Jasmine, when it's time to go after her and Raja has tanked, you just have basic attacks or just not strong hitting abilities to be able to take down Raja or these other tanks. So usually that's why it's so important to focus fire the tank. With Jasmine being a little bit different, go ahead, blow through Raja. And if Raja's gone, she's got quite the cooldown before he can come back. Focus the other ones. Jasmine just sits there and then move on. All right, now moving to the next team, we're going to be talking about the new Oceanic crew and what characters to kill and target first. This one's a lot easier. There's one character and one character only that is kind of the fuel for the Oceanic team. The Oceanics are a very slow team that rely on having a bunch of shields, health, restoring their health with Grandma Tala or Golden Hammer, and just outlasting and surviving their opponent, kind of like the tech team. And so the lifeblood behind this team that makes them go a little bit faster and then adds the fuel to the fire is Cobra Bubbles. Cobra Bubbles is target number uno, the most wanted character to kill on this team. So for example, if you target Maui, Moana, Stitch, or anyone outside of Cobra Bubbles, he's going to be passively gaining turn meter, and then he'll eventually be able to go. Then he'll be given his ticket over to another Oceanic character and getting their whole train rolling, which they can put out some crazy damage very early on. So how you get around this is go ahead and target Cobra Bubbles, put everything towards him. If you're lucky, you can either silence him or kill him on the first turn. I know for myself, I use the Oceanics all the time, and when someone silences Cobra Bubbles, it kind of wastes his first turn and it slows down the pace of the Oceanics significantly. So either silencing or just outright killing Cobra Bubbles is a great idea. And then when you're not focusing on Cobra, put some attacks, especially multi-hitting attacks, on Captain Gantu. Now, you don't have to kill Captain Gantu right away. He does get a little bit out of hand and crazy if you don't focus on him, but you need to make sure that you're keeping his charges down. Now, earlier I said to always focus the tanks on most of these teams, other than the Oceanic faction. Because Maui has that invincibility that you can't get past, it's best to leave him alone. Maybe try to silence him so he doesn't get that AoE stun out, but for the most part, that turn meter is not going to line up to be able to stun your entire team. So you're usually safe either just removing turn meter from Maui and keeping him in check and controlled that way, focusing on Cobra Bubbles, keep Gantu in check with those multi-hits, keeping those charges down, and then work on everyone else. Focus Moana or Stitch and kill them quickly, as again, these Oceanics are not going to have enough firepower to outlast or kill your team. So this is the best and easiest way to get around the Oceanics. The last tip for them is that right now, all the Stitches that we're seeing for the most part, and even my T7 6-star Stitch, is pretty easy to kill. If you kill Stitch right away, they're already looking at such an outnumbered battle. You've taken down one of their lead attackers, and overall, you've taken away what Stitch does for this team, which is counter both hero and dash by removing their charges. So you can focus fire Stitch if you can kill him fast enough. But again, Cobra is always the first person you want to kill. Okay, now let's get to the team that probably most of you, if not all of you, came here for, and that's obviously the Frozen meta. Now, the Frozen team is going to be a little bit more difficult than these other teams because there's so much coming at you, especially if you have hybrid teams with both Dash and Hero. I know when I go into a battle and I'm going against Kristoff, Anna, Elsa, Hero, and Dash, I look at it, there's 5 S-tier characters, and it's simply overwhelming what to do. Now, a lot of these teams are built off making Elsa get her show yourself as quickly as possible. So keeping Elsa in check with silence, sleep from fairy slumber, or stun is a good idea. But the best strategy, for the most part, that most of us are agreeing on when you go after Frozen, keep in mind, this does depend on your lineup, eyes locked, destroy and nuke everything you have towards Kristoff. The problem is, if you spread yourself too thin and you go after Anna right away, what she is the second on the target priority list, Kristoff's going to taunt. He's going to have that defense up. You're going to be able to get Anna somewhat low on health, but then you're going to be stuck behind this Kristoff wall with weaker abilities like we talked about earlier. If you put everything towards Kristoff before he gets the defense up, then you don't even have to worry about him. Then focus Anna, and the team has slowed down significantly before that. You're going to want to focus Kristoff like we talked about, but it's also not a bad idea to make Hero that second target or even first target if you can get away with it to kill right away. Now, Hero's incredibly fast, so it is tough to get to him before the evades start popping up. So again, Kristoff is probably the safer bet. Then Anna or Hero are going to be the best. If Dash and Hero are in there, really, it's crazy to think, but leave Dash alone. Keep him in check a little bit, but let him do his thing. And you need to prioritize getting through that taunt tank first. So something I like to do with Frozen is sometimes on that first turn, if I've got enough of my turn order ready to go before them, I do focus Elsa as fast as possible, and I see if I can get her into stasis. That way, if I want to finish her off, I can either A, just kill her right away with an AoE, or B, you can silence her. It's going to get her out of that protective glacial armor, and then you can kill her that way. One more thing you see often against Frozen teams is if you have a Charmer on your team, so Captain Jack Sparrow, Olaf, or Jafar, you can go ahead and charm either Spin or Kristoff, both of which making them on your team, and they're going to be assisting you a lot more than usual. If you don't have a way to get rid of taunt, nuke Kristoff. If you can get around the taunt, if you dispel it, leave Kristoff alone and then focus Anna and Hero or Anna and Elsa. Anna obviously being the repetitive character you want to kill. Now, Spin can do some crazy damage, but again, he's just not high on that priority list. Anna has so much control under her belt that you want to just make sure she can't get all that AoE down, all that speed turn meter over to Elsa, speeding her up a bunch. It can get out of control quite quickly. Now, if their team is built and you're in the later stages of live PvP, in the later champion brackets, and these teams are built to pump up Elsa as fast as possible, getting Elsa down, whether through crowd control or killing and getting that stasis silence on her, is key and imperative, because if you're just focusing on Kristoff, honestly, Elsa's going to be on turn 3, popping a show yourself, and you're dead before you know it. All right, now moving on to tech teams. Now, these are a little bit of a newer team that we're seeing, and we're not seeing a ton of them out there, as they came in between both Frozen and Oceanic, and not a ton of people have invested. But again, it is one of the more free-to-play friendly teams outside of Gizmo Duck, but Gizmo is going to be the cog that makes this machine, this tech machine, work. Now, with tech teams, 9 times out of 10 right now, unless you're in Club Conquest, you're going to see Hero Hamada, Gizmo Duck, Darkwing Duck, usually Scrooge, and then it's going to be Cora or Calhoun. The thing about the tech team is there's a lot of variants in them, usually involving downtown heroes. So someone like Dash or Ian and Barley, you can see plugged and played throughout here. We'll get to Ian and Barley when we go to the Onward team. But for the most part, tech teams are just lackluster and they don't have a lot of raw offense power. They are a team that is so frustrating when you're trying to get them down in Sorcerer Tournament or Arena, as they just time out so many battles with the amount of shields and evades, constant evades that they have on the battlefield. So the first thing that you want to do typically is stick to what we've been going after. Concentrate, Gizmo Duck that tank. Now, when I'm using the tech team, I hate when people go after Gizmo first, because once that taunt is gone, then you can go after really anybody, strip those evades, and you can kill them pretty fast. If you're not focus firing Gizmo, you can go after Hero. However, the only problem with this is that if you kill Hero 9 times out of 10, they've got a golden hammer that they're just going to revive Hero. He's going to come back, rinse and repeat. Whereas Gizmo's a little bit easy to take care of if he does come back. So Hero and Gizmo are the top 2 most wanted targets on these teams because of Hero's upgrade, the evades that come out, all of the things that Gizmo Duck does. Those are the main reasons you want to get them down. And if it's not them 2, the third option is Scrooge McDuck. The guy just lays out ridiculous damage, and you want to stop him before he gains all of these helpful effects and lays out 15 to 20k burgers on your team. This would be my recommendation for tech teams. Still a lot to figure out about them. Yes, Calhoun can come in there and she can summon a off tank, kind of like Raja. If that's the case, quickly take care of that, and then again, focus on Gizmo or Hero. Giving other options than just the kill order, it's also a good idea to stun, silence, charm, or sleep Gizmo Duck, as that pretty much shuts him out of the battle. Or if you have a fast enough silence with someone like Elsa, Davy Jones, some of these faster characters that can put out silence, put that right away on Hero and then start working on the rest of the team. This team is very quick, can get evades up very fast, and if you have the wrong spells, you're kind of caught helpless. You're not going to be able to make up after that, because if you don't have things that can strip through these evades, you're just going to find yourself hitting nothing over and over. Now let's hop on over to some of the less meta teams, but teams that you still find out there, and it's important to know what are the most important targets within them. So just talking about Onward in general, yes, they have +2, whether it's Dash and Hero or Zerg. They have a ton of different characters that can go with the Onward trio, but it's very simple. No matter what's in those filler spots, for the most part, maybe a case for Hero Hamada, but for the most part, you want to focus everything you have on Ian. Now, you can silence Barley, and that's going to also help you out a lot, but Ian can hit harder than Elsa can if he's left unkept. Barley and Ian combined is a nasty combination in DSA that not a lot of people know how to deal with because they're not used to fighting them, and when they get to them in live PvP, again, they have no idea what to do. They kind of target Hero or some of the other characters like Dash because they're unsure how strong they are. Now, if Manicore does taunt and you get stuck behind her, you're going to have to focus her a little bit to get rid of her. But by that time, most likely, Ian's going to nuke your team and it's going to be game over. So again, nuke Ian, put a silence or a stun, and stop Barley from giving Ian that critical power up, that guaranteed crit up and speed turn meter. And then from there, you can focus the rest of the team, as it should be a somewhat easy cleanup job after you get rid of the biggest threat. Another team that we're not seeing there quite as much, but we do want to talk about the most wanted targets, is the Incredibles. Now, again, you'll see different variations of the Incredibles, but when you're going up against Bob, Elastigirl, Dash, Jack, and a filler, obviously usually not Violet, you're going to want to focus everything you have on Bob first. Now, it's usually kind of perplexing. Why not go after Dash first? Well, really, the main thing is that Bob just keeps on taunting, and you're going to have to get around him anyway. So focus everything you have on Mr. Incredible, and then you can go after Dash. Again, when fighting these incredible teams, Dash can typically get out both of his abilities before you're able to even get most of your moves off. So that's why Dash isn't as important as a character to go after. He is definitely the most wanted number 2, but go after Bob first, and then you can have your way with the team. Silencing Bob is a great way to shut him down, and then you can focus Dash. And for a third target that I would go after next, go after Elastigirl, as she can just disrupt your team a lot and lay out some heavy damage. Do you see now, Cozy Club? We're kind of seeing a common trend. Go after the tank very early so that you can get to the other characters. Now, yes, this won't always work. And again, all of this depends on the build and the characters and the spells that you bring into battle. But for the most part, especially when you get higher up in the live PvP ladder, these are going to be the tips that are going to help you. And you don't have to remember a lot. When you're going against Frozen, just know, okay, Kristoff first, Ana second. If you have a way to get rid of or around taunt, then Ana first and Hero second, and so on. I wanted to make this guide as easy as possible for you guys, so you just remember the 1, the 2, and maybe the 3 to go and attack to give you the best chance for success in winning the battle. So now that we've covered the majority of the meta teams, just talking about some one-off characters, not a lot on this list, but some characters that you should be aware of, starting with Hades. Hades is typically very fast and get his abilities out there pretty quickly. So he's already done what he's supposed to do for the main part, so you can leave him alone if he's used his abilities already. Now for Moana, keep poking her with some damage and keep taking off chunks of health, and you want to kill her before she gets that big crashing wave ability. If you can do that, you've eliminated the main priority of what Moana does. Now Zerg is a tricky one. If Zerg was able to get Zerg Vision, kill one of your characters, and use Rapid Ion Blaster, at this point, you're probably down 2 characters, and for the most part, you can ignore Zerg because he did what he's supposed to do. For a few turns, he's not going to do much other than his basic. Now, just some other characters you might run into. Genie, we've talked about the Kingdom teams, and we didn't focus on Genie too much. Genie's always good to focus fast because he does have that save ability that prevents one of the allies from dying. So killing him can be great, and he can get out of control very fast if you don't get on him before the Peter Pan shadows start to stack up. And for the last miscellaneous character, if you see Big Bad Wolf out there, if he's got his Huff and Puff out already, go ahead and ignore him. If he hasn't yet, he's a very slow character, so you can crowd control him pretty easy. It's a good idea to look at all of the characters in the game. Look at their passive abilities, Cozy Club. This is something I can't stress enough. Go through, look at each and every one of the passives on these characters, and then you'll know immediately what you're going to do when you silence them. You're going to be shutting down a major part of a lot of these characters' kits, so don't undermine silence, as it's almost just as good as killing someone or stunning or charming and taking them out of the match completely, or at least a turn or 2. All right, Cozy Club, and that's it. And now I know there wasn't all the facts on how to counter all of these teams. This was meant to be more of a top priority who to kill first guide, and hopefully again it equips you with the knowledge you need going into these battles. Guys, I love doing these strategic videos. We're gonna get more and more of these strategic videos on the channel here. Again, join the stream if you want more strategy to your DSA playing. And until next time, Cozy Club, stay cozy, my friends.